很发是不是？
Let's open this book. Page number 2, 第2页。And please silence your phone or turn it off. 请关手机或关静音。
All non-sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Thank you.
By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all other sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Garuda, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and the moon. As the Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. To the Lamas who possess the three kayas, I offer the outer, inner, and secret offerings, with my body, wealth, and all that is visible. Please grant me the supreme realization, enlightenment. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the 2 vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings. So today we will, in the afternoon, we will receive an empowerment on 3 Yidam deities combined into one, and they are called the 3 wrathful ones, or the 3 very important deities, which are Hayagriva, Vajrapani, and Garuda. So this afternoon we will receive an empowerment for that, and this morning I will give an introduction, a teaching on the nature of these deities.
大家早，今天下午呢，我们会接受这个除度三尊的观点，这个是3个本尊合而为一的3愤怒尊，也就是马头明王、金刚手菩萨以及大鹏金翅鸟，或者是叫马鹏金刚灌顶。今天早上呢，我会先为各位介绍这3位本尊。
这当时呢。 이담 그래라 이담 참아 참고 이거스다 다톡 그랬으면 다음에 이제나 이담 참아라 이담 찔라 이담 참아 참고 이거스 라 가래는 라기 양수 나마 괜히 대비 다 참아 양수 나마 그래서 톡고 이거스 숨기고 얘는 다른 데 무슨 라수 찍도 되네 라순 그 봐. 남자는 다 산업에 담당된 때 그냥 selapa 멘트 기상기 잡아 요죠. 좀 된다. 숨 좋게 되네. 그런 양주에 담게 되지. 그래서니 소리 선에 아무 나타나고 그렇다. 좀 됐다 이제 소ku 그랬으니까 모르는 거죠. 가르스는 계속으로서는 딱 맥스가 그냥 그런 제 이다다고 그거밖에 정신하고 이제 되게 더워. 그러나 뒤에 내가 제대로 그냥 답사 정신 그냥 그러나 나다 보여주는 게 자기는 주로 같이 다 사람들이 같이 원하고
And so generally speaking, all the Yidam deities are complete within a single Yidam deity. When we are speaking now from the ultimate perspective of the view. So therefore, whichever deity you practice, if you practice a single deity, then it is said that the practice of this deity actually contains the powers and the blessings of all the deities. And so now here in this context, we are practicing 3 deities combined into one. And these are generally 3 deities of great power, which normally also are practiced separately. So there is Vajrapani and Hayagriva, Garuda, wrathful deities whose power and blessings are really inconceivable. So all of these powers and blessings of these deities are now condensed into one, and we practice three deities as one. So the one who had first composed this practice as sadhana of those three deities was Guru Rinpoche, because he saw a certain need for such a practice to exist. And nowadays, this practice of the three wrathful deities combined into one is a practice that is considered as very important actually in most of the Tibetan lineages, so probably all of them contain this practice in some way.
一般上来讲，我们在一切的本尊，当我们修这个一个本尊的时候，在这一个本尊，它就从就近见地来讲呢，它就是完整的含藏了所有的这个本尊的特质、功德等等。但无论如何修什么样的一个本尊，修一个本尊也是算具足一切的本尊的。那今天所要讲的这个法教这个灌顶呢，是一个三合一的一个灌顶。具有大威力。无论平时我们是分开修的，马头明王，或者是大鹏金翅鸟，或者是金刚手菩萨，那么在这一次这样的这个仪轨呢，它是三尊合而为一，一起修，它是个别来讲威力就不可思议的，合而为一的威力也是很不可思议的。那么在过去莲师曾经写下了一个法本，一个仪轨。这三个本尊合为一，这个是非常重要的一个修法，几乎在藏传佛法的所有的传承都有这样子的一个修法。
Nina Sajonte, Jutab Yen and Renner Mamuro, Pena Nasutata, Namji, Hindi Namisi, Hindi Namisi Capsu, Hindi Ganana Karoli University, it's all lot troops in numbers of lot troops. Numbers of lot troops in the Karoli, that the Hindi Zonkorna, Tikalas, Sajon, numbers of lot troops, each other. Then there was in the top game and then it is a chunk of luck was in Mambo.
So most people have heard about Vajrapani and also Hayagriva. There also exist separate sadhanas for these deities. And regarding the Garuda, actually sadhana dedicated just particularly to the Garuda is not really widely spread or known, but the Garuda is incorporated often in many other sadhanas. For example, we practice Yamantaka. In the Yamantaka practice, we speak about the 6 root deities of Manjushri, 6 root deities. So first you have the 5-fold Yamantaka deity, and then on top of the deity is the Garuda. So there are 6 deities. And then there is many other sadhanas actually that somehow incorporate or consider the Garuda as very important.
大部分的人都已经听过马头明王或者是金刚手菩萨，那么他们也有各自的法本跟这个仪轨。那至于单独的大鹏金翅鸟的仪轨则比较少，一般大鹏金翅鸟都是包含在其他的法本或仪轨当中。比如说我们刚刚修的文殊阎摩敌，我们讲到文殊阎摩敌的6个根本尊是文殊阎摩敌的5尊眷属之外呢，还在他们之上的上方有大鹏金翅鸟。除了这个之外，其他许多的法本也有包含了大鹏金翅鸟的部分。
Then Sajong, Yena, Zo, Nima, Sinari, Korang Silen, Rote, look, Nima. Dini Modo, look at the Mamodo, look, Pachi Suti, the Tati, Dona, Nozino. Sometimes the channel, then that's a Mango Yugo. The little cups, there's a job, the canon, the Nimo, mix up the little channel. The cups in this is Lapa the book means the detail. So, mean herb to Rogyawati, Tipocha. Mean Tela Nasa Tetan Jera Yoba, the Plat in Yamisi. The Dante Yamisi. The name mean Koran means herb Koran Yuba. The Niti net in Jomo Jujin, Pasaya Sibat, the Niti Nasa, no Zite, Sewa Sibat. The Dam is on the means of 이 망고지 근데 잘 배는 다다 뭐 내지를 그 총아서 내가 총 하고 총나 내가 그래 내가 요즘 총아서 총아다 부분 좀 제 코로나 다데 DC 때 용야때 얼도 레이트 티칼 사총아도 좋다 사총 예신이랑 있으면 사총 탑 대냐원에서는 디 마다 누가 민들 그 얼굴 누가 뒤도 많이 근데서 이것은 맨 거랑 총마 사총도 아니지 보통
So then, in general, the special power or activity function of the Garuda, the special ability, is that it is said that the Garuda is very powerful or is an antidote when it comes to Naga problems. For that, so this medicine is not just some pills that are administered, but these are actually produced in union with the deity practice of this. A certain medicine in general are produced in relation to a certain Yidam deity practice. So here it is the Garuda. And so the substances of these pills, these medicinal substances, are endowed with a certain kind of power that can then dispel various kinds of harm and exhaust causes and conditions for harm. And so the medicine is basically produced as a union of medicine and Yidam deity practice. And regarding the Garuda, there is a very special medicine. It's very small pills. It's called the 5 Garudas. And that is, there's a sadhana practice of 5 Garudas that have the nature of the 5 wisdoms. And that is said to have a special power to cure very specific kinds of ailments, illnesses. For example, wounds, open wounds, and fever. And sometimes there's certain kinds of illness that physicians, doctors cannot diagnose. So there's a certain kind of pill that is good for these kind of obscure illnesses as well. And so this is these 5 Garuda pills, and they are consecrated with the power of this practice of the 5 Garudas and the mantra recitation. So it's not just the power of the medicine itself, which it also is, but it also comes together with the power, being empowered by the certain qualities of that deity.
对于大鹏金翅鸟来讲，一般我们认为大鹏金翅鸟有它的特别的威力，以及它特别的功能，就是主要是对治龙族的疾病。当然，所谓的龙族具有多种外在的形象，不管是害人的精灵也好，或者是种种疾病等等。一般认为大鹏金翅鸟是可以降服龙怪的。那就藏药的这个角度来讲呢，给予这个结合这个大鹏金翅鸟的这个修持的这些藏药成分，往往有去除一些伤害或者是伤害因缘的这种威力。它们这个大鹏金翅鸟的藏药是很小的，可是具有很大的威力。一般有这个五个大鹏金翅鸟代表的法本，它的代表是5字。那它们可以治疗一些特别的疾病啊，或者是久不合愈的伤口啊、晕眩症等等，或者是很多其他医生所不能治疗的疾病的。那这些藏药本身就具有相当大的功能了，再加上修持这个5个大鹏金翅鸟的这个修持，以及持咒等等，所以威力是不可思议的。
我们开始呢，也当个人能做到的嘛。这就讲，我就是那个，我觉得这个让人开始就这个就当罗马帝国是当这个罗马帝国那个这样来给你过，是来给你过，是来给你过，这样你就能够用心的，这样搞个开始有。每个人把这人把这结果嘛，这他的这个当不是这个真的，没拿出来这是那个就挺忙活的嘛，今天结果嘛就。用我妈的用我妈的，你那今天的都用我妈的，你今天用我的拿出来吧，真的，对了，你拿出来呢，对了，那个用这忙活的，是那啥说的忙活的，我没忙活的，这他妈的你我是那啥说的你我的是，真的是就当这。是拿出来的结果那个比较这个强烈。
So in general, actually, Tibetan medicine often receives its name in relation to a certain Yidam deity. So the medicine has the name of that Yidam deity that it relates to. There's, for example, one medicine, Lojuma. I don't know the. What's the name? The one who wears leaves. I forgot the Sanskrit one, but there's this goddess, this female deity that wears leaves. I don't know the Sanskrit now. But yeah. So that deity, the leaf-clad one, is this kind of specific medicine actually has that same name, the leaf-clad one, and it's also an antidote to certain kinds of illnesses like fever and so on, and like contagious diseases and so on. And so in the Tibetan medicine, the power of the medicine does not just come from the substance itself, but it is also combined with the blessings of a Yidam deity. And then as such, it becomes an antidote to illnesses, not just on the outer level, the external illnesses, but really the outer, inner, and secret aspects of illnesses. So it's not just the condition, which is the illness that is being, what causes the illness that is being cured, but there's also a cause. So it also is an antidote to that cause. And the actual cause of all illness are the afflictive emotions. That's the cause. And then the condition are spirits, evil spirits, harm doers, obstacles, and so on. And the result then is illness and suffering and so on. So actually the root of illness has many different aspects, basically outer, inner, and secret aspects. And Tibetan medicine, various kinds of Tibetan medicine, are an antidote to all the aspects of illness, outer, inner, and secret. So they are not only intended to cure the outer manifest illness, but really also the more subtle aspects of the illness.
大体上来讲呢，藏药呢跟它的功能跟它所修的这个对应的本尊是有关联的。比如说有一个藏药叫做罗尊，也就是它是很特别的，就这个就跟那个所谓的夜衣佛母，它是同样的一个名字的。那么
不是同样的名，就是夜衣佛母。
就是夜衣佛母。这个藏药的名字就叫做夜衣佛母。那么它这个有这样子的一种取名。那么所以这些藏药的功能功效呢，不只是来自它藏药的成分，也更要加上它所修的这个本尊法的一个过程的一个威力。那他们所对治的不只是外在的疾病，也是对治内在的这个疾病以及病因。我们要知道，一切的病都是来自于一些烦恼，那么这是主要的因。那缘呢，就可能是外在的一些邪魔会伤害者，那果就是我们的得到的疾病。所以从这一点来讲呢，藏药往往能够对治外内密三个层次的病因。
ini tadi impor langsung kita bayang, nekap ke timba kali sini, tak ni nak cakap impor, tak lo ke sejuta ni impor, sabda ke sejuta ni impor, ten orang jadon jasin langsung apa, sepen ni, ten sama ni impor cakap. Impor langsung, ini katok tahu sebab namanya kari yang boleh sih, tak jarang tanpa orang masuk kita lihat yang tu yang mana gitu. Salam ke tokoh bagi dunia, ini katok saja ke tokoh sih ya, idam, yang cok temung ni mungkin sih, tak mau tu temung ke tempat. Ini cok tak saja ke tokoh tu ya, dah mereka tu ya langsung, tentu bagi dia yang kau. Jadi macam mana pasal itu lah yang senang berkap situ, mereka ke timba sekolah tanah mana terus dia, apa? Jadi mereka timba mana ni masalah soal itu lebih ni boleh langsung kita cari.
And so now, what is the temporary benefit now of these three wrathful ones, these three deities combined? They are an antidote mainly to various kinds of illnesses, in particular an antidote to various kinds of naga harm and illnesses related to naga harm, and then also illnesses related to harm by earth spirits or earth lords, and then also other demons and evil spirits and various haughty demons and so forth. So the illness related to the various classes of spirits and demons. These three deities are their antidote on a temporary level. And then ultimately, when we engage in the practice of the generation and completion stages of the Yidam deity, then gradually also we will realize and attain realization on the various levels and paths until we attain the state of enlightenment. So through the practice of these Yidams, therefore, we can also attain the twofold siddhis, the common siddhis and then the supreme siddhi, which is the ultimate state of enlightenment, the realization of selflessness. But then, for the most part, when people engage in this practice of these Yidams, then their interest, the reason behind their practice is mainly the temporary benefit of clearing away all kinds of illnesses.
这个除障的三尊呢，一般来讲对治疾病，特别是由龙族相关引起的伤害，或者是土地神奇、鬼魔等等所造成的伤害来讲，有特别的作用跟威力。一般来讲呢，暂时的城市能够治疗这些疾病。那么从生起次第圆满次第来讲呢，这个到不同的层次，一直到证悟为止，我们可以得到两种成就，一个是共的成就，一个是就近无我的证悟这样子的一个成就。一般修持这个本尊法的，不外是针对暂时的治病这个方面来开始的。
那你找人那样你不老是我忘的，但忘他们了，但得学的嘛，得学过不就这搞的这些呢？那就搞是在那里，差不多那里。但是他们在那想家多是，他们想家多是，你告诉他，那说装饰了叫你刚老师的，这有嘛了？我们给人去看些有的，刚才讲的定就是刚要平头马桶，这个是如果去看那个出租房的，弄的嘛的，针对人的出生的要么的这个是，他后面去的是吧的，现在人呢的，那把那的，刚没嘛这话的吧，刚没嘛这话的。你给公办那种港务公司可能公办的有的那的介绍公办的，你天呢去把药铺的阳明去包定，我那什么包定去把药铺忙不多，人那都去把你把还好了，然后这嘛是可是没独家的，对吧？去把这是没独家的，那没独家项目有的是，项目有。或者项目有啥子的，就是哎，没有，重庆的嘛，项目工作有啊，那就这样，项目。也这个是说，他项目干不了项目，从来用不了。连项目就是咱们那项目就有2、3个月吧，这个是，我说项目有什么的哪个吧？你那这项目没大的这种人那上的，很多就没就结果结果的。我那时候可去把药铺用的。因为我把那跟新那工作的俺在社区，新工，那是他有的，你那么提什么？这你这跟俺这我们这都是网购这个的，这个你这就是我平白的把平时是那，网购这把那样的那个网购是这够样在哪里？这年大家少平了。你这就到啥程度我忘了吧？因为起码对俺们这明白的东西， onda jiban hayagriva ga on tension Nima religion test rules sama se go no ha ko chong no ini ti ka so na ti ta sa chung so wan ko no ti wan de ji bo ma de ta rong ji ju tap ti ko chala ne ti nin bo na ti zo bo mo ta ko lo ni la mo mo ya mo bo bo
사람이 속고
어 ta so na ni 내가 뭐라고 말해도 힘이 빠지고요. 대나자도 또야 또 내가 가서가 또 지금 그 자마 그 자산 자 이제 이제 말하는 양이 있으 마시나요. 왕 도바장 때 뭐가 좀 그 말하는 건 무슨 양이야. 근데 이제 텔레비전 다당하기 다당은 뭐지 그거 가지고 이제 거기서 요즘 쪽에 너무 되게 양면이 지나서 기가 요만 쓰고 말 이게 완전 그 스나타는 바라는 게 그런 거 빈도로 근데 내 나사지 그 바바 되는 거
So Lama Thubten Nima says, I myself have actually first received this empowerment of the three wrathful ones. That was actually the first empowerment I have received ever. And there also was a reason for receiving this empowerment. When I was very young, I had a really bad illness. Actually, my legs were crippled at that time. And at that time, in our village, there were no hospitals, there were just a few Tibetan doctors. So I consulted various doctors all over the place, but nothing helped, nothing could cure me. And at that time, actually, Garshan Rinpoche was still not out of prison. He was still in prison. And at that time, there really basically was no Dharma. And so my father, in the past, he was actually a monk in a monastery in that village I was born in. And he was actually a great practitioner, a great Dharma practitioner. And there were actually a lot of them at that time. We call them Thubten, so those who possess realization. But then, at that time, even though they were actually great practitioners, no one at the time really knew that. And moreover, people would even call them bad people. So whenever they heard about a practitioner, they would call them a bad person. That was the common practice. And then they were talking about putting a hat on them, like as a kind of a sign. So at that time when I was young, I still thought that there is a real hat that somebody is wearing, but then I didn't see anyone wearing these hats. So I was always wondering what's up with those hats. And so then one time, there was this older elderly Dharma practitioner, also a great practitioner. And one time at night, my father took me to see this practitioner, and then this yogi he conferred an empowerment on my head. And one thing that I very clearly remember at that time is that he was reciting this mantra of those three wrathful ones over and over again. So he kept reciting that mantra, and then he conferred this empowerment. So that's actually the empowerment that he conferred. And he said that later you should recite this mantra every day a little bit. And of course at that time you would have to do that in secret, because mantra recitation and so on was not allowed. Nobody could know about that. So anyways, he conferred this empowerment of the three deities. And not only that, he also gave a certain specific sadhana, a liturgy, as an antidote to that kind of illness. So this sadhana also in relation to those three deities. And then what he did is there's this Tibetan practice of stamping the body. So they're using stamps and they're filling them with an ink-like color. of various letters, like mantra letters and wheels, mandalas and so on, and then they are printed on all over the body. So this Lama then printed these wheels of these deities all over my body. And after all that, I was completely healed from my illness. And so that's a personal, true experience that I had. And what I learned from that is that even if you don't know how to practice at all, if you just receive the empowerment alone, that's already very powerful. So that's a real personal experience that actually happened. And that's the reason also why I organized this empowerment now during Rinpoche's visit here. It is because there are a lot of other people who don't know how to do a lot of practice, and even if they do, they don't really do a lot of practice. And so I felt that this empowerment is very, very powerful, and it will surely benefit them, especially those who have different kinds of illness. It's very beneficial for them to receive this empowerment.
那么上师继续讲说，事实上，我这一辈子所有受的灌顶当中，这个除障三尊呢，是我受的第一个灌顶。在我的小时候，很小的时候，我的身体很不好，甚至脚是有点跛的。可是当时在藏地呢，没有什么医院，只有一些医生，但我去拜访了好几个医生，也没有什么实质的帮助。而在那个年代呢，噶切仁波切还被关在监狱里面。那在藏地里面也没有公开的这个佛法的这个传授。那我父亲过去是一个出家人，是一个相当好的一个修行人。那么在那个时候呢，修行人都被扣上一个很不好的这个帽子，比如说Thubten 那个这样子，他们这个名字事实上变成一个很不好的一个代名词。那一般人也就习惯了这样子来称他们。有的时候我甚至认为说他们头上是真正有帽子的。那有一次呢，我父亲就在晚上呢，带着我去见一个老的瑜伽士，一个修行者。那么这个瑜伽士就给予我一个加持，之后呢，给我这个灌顶，也就是除障三尊马旁经是除障三尊的灌顶，然后他反复的持咒。那么他并且告诉我，你未来应该每天尽量的来持这个咒，但是要秘密的进行，因为当时的藏地是不能公开修法的，不能持咒的。那么不但是这样子，他也给了法本来对治我的这个疾病。那么之后呢，他就用一些印章，然后用不同颜色的印泥，在藏地有这样子的做法，也是不同的咒语啊，或不同代表不同本尊的咒语，这样，然后再盖在自己身上，病人的身上。那他这位老的瑜伽士呢，也在我的身上各处都盖了这些印。那很奇迹似的，在这个之后，我的疾病就完全得到了痊愈。所以我自己的体会就是，即使在那个时候我不知道怎么样的修法，或者是一般人不知道怎么行佛法，如果能够得到这样子的一个灌顶，这个加持也是具有很大的威力的。所以因为这样的缘故，我特别请噶切仁波切在这一次来到我们这边的地方的时候，能够给予这样子的灌顶。因为这个灌顶对于平常不修佛法或不知道怎么修习佛法的人，还是具有很大的威力，可以帮助他们治疗许许多多的疾病。
다른 뒷값은 여기에서는 다 보여만 먹게 여기 뭐 쓰니까 여기 있는 거 뒷값이 다 무긴들이 거기에 말라 왕고야상이 내 집에 탑도서 참하게 또 늘린 거죠. 去的话，因为当然没领导这个去，没领导的当，大家看过公办的对了解嘛，没领导的我刚刚说，刚刚过来没领导这个去参嘛的是，哪能是的是，那个对没领导去的，哪能签好的话，今年没领导这个去打的，说的什么干之类的。去打这干之类的，咱民俗。干之类的，咱更加进口人的办法，大家都接办。这大家那个就他老对这样的，你说那种就他老对那干之类的，甚至是个地，你说那种的去的当，他那种的去当，对没有钱，就是他你说没钱的，这里大地方的那种的这种的。学科呢，对你上了最强。
So now, retrospectively, we speak of this practitioner who conferred the empowerment as a yogi. But at that time, actually, he was basically just seen like he was just like an elderly man. But he conferred this empowerment on the three like antidotal remedial deities on me as a method to cure my illness. And also what I didn't know at that time, but what I found out later is that the lineage where this empowerment comes from actually comes from Hlo Nuden Dorje's Dharma teachings. And that is connected to the Kango Gombam, where he was from. In the past, Nuden Dorje would always annually travel to the Kango Gombam, the monastery. And so the Kango monastery practiced all of Nuden Dorje's treasure teachings and so on, according to his lineage. And now, Nuden Dorje's Dharma Lord is Garchunle Yongkyap. Garchunle Yongkyap is Garchun Rinpoche's previous incarnation, so he was the 7th Garchun Rinpoche, and now the current Garchun Rinpoche is the 8th Garchun Rinpoche. And the sadhana, the brief sadhana, including the mantra recitation of those three deities, was actually composed by Garchunle Yongkyap, the previous Garchun Rinpoche. So he composed short sadhana on those three deities. And so for this reason, this practice is also greatly connected to Garchun Rinpoche, and the lineage is close. And for this is another reason why it is so special to be able to receive this empowerment from Garchun Rinpoche himself.
那现在我现在我回想当初的情况，我想那个老人家大概就是一个修行者或者是一个瑜伽士，只是当时我一个小孩子的角度看，他就是一个老人这样子。那他当时给予我这样的灌顶，也治疗我的这个疾病。后来我才知道说，他的传承是来自于Nuden Dorje。那他来自于冈波宫巴这个地区的Nuden Dorje所得的这个传承。那这个法王Nuden Dorje的就是噶次列雍喜，那他也就是第7世的噶千仁波切。第7世的噶千仁波切写了一个这个储藏三尊的一个短的这个法本。所以这一次噶千仁波切来，我也特别祈请他来给我们传这个法，因为这个法跟噶千仁波切有很亲密的这个关联，从传承的角度来讲，也是一个非常近的一个传承。
第个是我们这边他刚把就是蒙古这些有吧。也咱们这个人都去英国老师过来，今年他的去好像是今年他不告诉，的他们的那就他那的那的过那的过这就跟英国差嘛的，就当大啥就是，这个高， 주제나도 그래서 공대기만 되는 거.
So this time, this elderly man, he stamped many different images onto my legs, and later, at that time I didn't know, but later when I was studying the Dharma and looked into that, it turns out that these are all related and all occur in the tradition or the sadhana of the three wrathful deities according to Nudenburg's lineage. And so within that, you can find many different methods for curing various kinds of illnesses. There's a certain kind of method for this and this illness, and then all of them collectively are cured by the three wrathful ones. So this is what he conferred upon me.
那么那一次，这一个老人在我的脚上印下种种这个形象的这个图章。后来我修习佛法了之后，才知道这些都是卢登多杰的这个传承，可以帮忙治疗不同的这个疾病。那么这个他给予我这个除障三尊的这个加持，以帮助我去除我身体的这个疾病。
民族的传承原来的这个这三个本尊的部分，刚才讲的那些都是不是那个民族的，这些刚刚的那个疾病的那个特色的这些方法都是在这三尊法里。
So what I just explained to you all comes from the explanation of the lineage of this the three wrathful ones.
我等着人他就当他那那在干部的时候这样做的有的那那在用我们的用法方面了。 有两年当的就是，金都给当中国是，因为那这个金着的那的平跟中国，那个大说法，平跟中国有的，因为我们觉得两年当的让人家三个来的都有，有两年当的金都中国当中国只有那三个中国是，这就是。 我们的有的当然的都有，但就我们的那那啥的大家习惯了，但我那些呢，他娘们跟男的，他那个都这个大，他们那个都就是工作那什么事情，这个他们就是咱中我们的。 상반된 인제 산축스 길지나 대도 같이 채나요 내가 무슨 요거 번 단로 무슨 거 근데 대도 다수상 어디요 내가 차니 요거한테 가야 돼 근데 차
And so then the actual, the true cause of all our illness are our afflictive emotions. It is that the cause are negative karmas, misdeeds, obscurations, negativities. The condition are the spirits, the hindrances, and harmdoers and so forth. But these are only a condition, the various gods and demons and various obstacles and so on. The actual cause are the negative karmas, the actions accumulated in previous lives, the obscurations and the negativities in the mind. And then the result is suffering and illness and so on. So the real actual cause of all illness comes down to one's own mind. And in order to purify these negative karmas and obscurations, those negativities, there's various practices. For example, there is the Vajrasattva, meditation and recitation and so forth, as a method to purify these obscurations. But then the true root of purification really is to give rise to love and compassion, to bodhicitta within one's mind stream. If one gives rise to bodhicitta, then all these negativities and obscurations can become purified, no matter how great they are. They actually are purified rather easily and quickly. This is how it is taught. And there are also many stories about beings and people who have purified their obscurations. So again, the actual root cause of all illness really comes down to that.
我们要知道，造成我们疾病真正的原因，事实上是来自我们自己内在的这种烦恼，以及一切过去世造的一些负面的这个业，这个是因。那缘呢，就是外在的这些神奇啊、精灵啊、危害者啊、妖魔等等，他们不过是缘而已。那果呢，是我们自己的痛苦以及疾病。所以我们要知道，因是从我们自己的内心而来的。那么，为了要能够治疗我们各种不同负面的这个业呢，我们有修不同的这个法，比如说金刚萨埵这样等等。可是我们要知道，我们要真正的呢净化来自真正的净化往往是来自自己内心的这个慈悲心以及菩提心。如此就能够很轻易的、完整的、完全的能净化一切的这个疾病。那么我们也听到许多这种类似的故事，这样子的一个效果。
大家就当补个命，补个命用，这做个那呀，那啥个就我妈的有没把人送有了吧？补个命也就这个那，送完身了，那个家庭了，一家庭就咋别送有了，一家庭就咋。这下了也呢，人了家庭对哪有了吧？long 做是吧？基本上来家庭的吃吧，可是吧，你来家庭的，北京就是来家庭的，这是对吧？这是对吧？的是吧？来家庭的，从中来一家，你去找别说。这个就我们搞的头有是那 long 吃吧，北京生的牛我们到时候头有的时候没有用的。long 个呢的也当然头有，没有讲 long 个呢 long 个呢，北京个呢的当然头有 long 个呢的也当没有讲。日本来的老家是这样的，因为我们都是早点投入什么的。这些啊，都是东西的。但这年咱们真没看到那牛毛投入来，那地方西东我们看来点瞧着，他做不个经济干的是那没用了那在那烧药，那个在我们在话的牛毛把投入的是，那在话就过那牛毛把打过来的是。
And then also actually in the scriptures on Tibetan medicine, it is also said in those scriptures that the medicinal tantras and so forth, it is taught that the true cause of all illness are the afflictive emotions. And in those scriptures it says that there are 428 different kinds of illness. And these are divided into 4 categories, 4 sets of 107. So there are 107 illnesses related to the winds. There are 107 illnesses related to bile. There are 107 illnesses related to phlegm. And then there are 107 illnesses related to the combination of those three together. So there's a total of 428 different kinds of illness. And it is said in those medicinal scriptures on Tibetan medicine that the actual cause of all these are the afflictive emotions. So basically there are illnesses related to wind, bile, and phlegm, and these are related to the three poisons, the three afflictive emotions. So each of them is related to one of the afflictive emotions. And so the reason for saying that is that this is what is actually taught in the Tibetan medicinal scriptures. The point is that the real cause of various kinds of illness are the afflictive emotions. And so for this reason, in order to cure illness really at its root, we have to purify our afflictive emotions.
在这个藏药的这个经典也有提到同样的一个讲法，也就是万病之源来自于我们内在的烦恼。根据这些藏药的经典，提到了这世界上有428种疾病，分属于4种不同的原病因，每一种病因有107种疾病。它包括有关跟气有关的疾病，跟胆汁有关的疾病，跟痰有关的疾病，以及前3者综合起来的这个疾病，总共呢有428种疾病。但是它的根源无非都是来自于烦恼。那这个也有这样子的讲法。
전에 나도 때 님보 라스인데 다 냠내세 버가지 해나야 조가나 조게 디 고롱 나오데 다 내가 내 다도 선도 무슨 데라서 많이 받게 다 망기라고 인빙고 산적을 선조데 다 사마크 예담 제도 냠내세 그 망기데 대다 대다고 그때 있는데 르바이인다 예담 그 라인 마데라야 특별한 방법이요. 이해요. 르바이인도 제 동당 그 살아 파타니로 소화되는 데는 특별한 마이게 차소하래. 대강사 로덕 제종당 강사 기랍 제종나 되는 데다 고아 대상사는 들으시는 거요. 대모마 그다 예담 냠술람바빈 탁토 모마 되지 메이어 제는 데 가르르스나 다 사자진도 조과지 못지 내단 뒤가나래 예니 니스와도 내봐 니메 그 돈을 도야 예시스나 니메 그 돈을 쓰네요 대도 그 탑시 대도 그 탐람 들으지 차도 예담 양수 이방이야 돈당 뭐마도 될 ini tiga apa tu sen teng saat satu botol ini kurang di lebasinanda senapsinanda tepe capcem
So then regarding the actual practice of those three important deities, mainly what is important is the intention on the basis. So that means that one should not have only an intention to cure a temporary illness. The foundation really should be an altruistic intention of bodhicitta. And that's really the foundation of the practices of generation and completion of any Yidam deity in the secret mantra. So then on the basis of that, we practice the deity yoga in stages. We recite the mantra and so on. And regarding that, actually, there are in general 4 levels of kind of vehicles, or four like levels of practice that we progress along. And as we progress along those four levels of practice, we come closer and closer to the ultimate truth. So depending on one's own level of wisdom and one's own mental capacity and understanding, one engages in any of those four levels of practice. And as one progresses along these levels, one's understanding and realization becomes increasingly profound, increasingly deep. And then what is the ultimate goal, actually, of practicing Yidam deity? It is to arrive at the state of Mahamudra or Thubten. And that is to realize that on the basis, there is no duality. To realize primordial wisdom, which is the nature of non-duality, actually. So it is a path, a method of realizing that. That is why we practice these Yidam deities. That's the actual purpose of Yidam deity practice. And as we progress in our practice, our experience, our understanding becomes increasingly deep and profound. And so as it becomes increasingly deep, then the greater will be the experience of the deity's powers and blessings. And so this is also why the practice of these deities are really widespread.
从修持的角度上来讲，我们应该去检视我们修法的自己修法的这个发心。我们自己修法这个法的发心，应该不只是暂时的来治疗我们这个疾病，更应该是去寻求或者是得到究竟的菩提心，以此来修法来持咒。他修这个法能够也分成4个层次的这个修持。我们透过这样子的修持呢，慢慢的一步一步的接近究竟的真谛，离证悟的程度跟深度也慢慢的加深了。那么从大手印大圆满的角度来讲，在根本上是无二的。事实上，我们的本初是也是无二的。那么在这样子的根本的基础之上，有这一个本尊法的这个修法。那如果说我们能够加这个进一步这个深入来修它的法的话，我们可以知道它是一步一步。当我们一步一步修持精进的时候，进步的时候，它的加持威力也就越来越大，越来越深远。所以因此之故，这个法呢，在藏地来讲也是相当的普遍的。
他这蛮把这大拉就说没把全部的抽的，这样的是把它给那东西给弄些那个拉手把它爬，然后没把关系，那个关爬过去没把说到，爬时候这样的上面当完呢，这用当的，这用嘛，爬起这搞来靠谱的，这个人做这当家人呢，就大。那就刚刚的我就他就过了，这完出发家这他这可能他去过嘛，那个俺说的靠花在上就他在家特别上了，因为这他去做个嘛，起码这样我刚都做咱们的靠搞对了这弄把东西上了就当的，这我告诉专门把东西啊，然后定地方上当的呀，经常。本来当然都这两个全部都跑去假话拉说话，但是个拉说话就没法说不上了。那个就他想象到当特是咱们没法说通，国家在的国家人呢，全没法当过的有。他们这人的平均你看给这些，写了个关于跟你讨论刚刚咱们没法通的写过，有没有？这种的，这嘛说那查老师个查过呢，大查过过，刚刚对吧？结果这样，一样的这个3年这个3就不是，这老师吧，这真的也当年是吧？ 这三两把呢，就叫那抽空的，那这啥就生个人就这个，真的跟娘们呢，跟你们那咋拿说吧？那当然了，这个点呢，你来办老有，炸过有，炸有那都，养起大玩具不到就说呢，这就我过当亲妈子呢，有关呢就是呢，很多就娘们生呢，就这是搞来考。
So one might think that this is a very powerful deity, these are wrathful deities, and if I practice these wrathful deities, I can destroy all harm doers and hindrances, and I can render them powerless, and through fearful practice I can send them away somewhere else. So one might think in these terms, but if one thinks in this way, it's actually not so certain whether this will actually be accomplished. It probably will be difficult to accomplish it in this way. In general, actually, just in a worldly sense, if we want to resolve various difficulties, different situations, for example, there is a disagreement between two people, if they keep fighting and arguing, then probably they will not resolve the issue. And even if one gains a temporary victory and defeats the other person in an argument, one has not really resolved the situation, because you have defeated that person with aggression, and therefore this person will still want to harm you, and is just looking for an opportunity later on, and whenever they have an opportunity, when it comes up, then they are ready to cause harm again. Also in a country, for example, if the country is concerned about criminals and so forth, and to eliminate criminal behavior, then there might be a way to subdue them temporarily in an aggressive way, but only through such aggression one cannot really resolve the issue too. As we know also from a mundane context, the way to resolve various difficulties and conflicts is through peaceful means, through conversation, through communication. That is really what resolves all kinds of difficulties. So only to think that I'm going to practice this wrathful deity and recite this wrathful mantra to cure my illness, for example, that in itself, that alone will probably not be of benefit on its own. When we engage in this practice of those idams, then it has to be done on the basis of bodhicitta, an altruistic intention. And actually, even though those wrathful deities appear fierce, wrathful externally, they really are manifestation of bodhicitta. So it is not just through the wrath and the aggression that the various illnesses and those causing the illness are liberated or destroyed. So if one practices a deity basically with an ordinary mind, with an ordinary grasping at the true existence, the external existence of that deity, if one believes that it is a really existing entity, and one practices on the basis of that, then it will be very difficult to really gain true results from the practice.
那么一个人可能会想说，如果说这三个本尊都有这么大的一个威力的话，那么是不是我如果来修这个法，我就可以摧毁一切危害者，把他们送到远远的地方去？那我心里是这样想，如果这是我们的发心，有这样的心念的话，我不知道是不是能够达成，能够成就这一个法。 比如说两个人，朋友之间也好，发生了争执，意见不同，那一个人用很大的威力，然后把一个人给斥责或者把他打跑了，在外表上或许他自己认为这只是暂时的，透过这个争斗得到的胜利，可是这是真正的赢吗？因为另外一个人如果说问题没有解决，另外一个人可能还是把它放在心上，还是可能伺机来报复的啊。在一个国家里面，对于罪犯的处理也应该有同样的思维，要进行一些犯罪的这个活动。那如果说我们只是光用以暴易暴的方法，这个能够真正的解决问题吗？一般来讲，我们都是修平静的这个极静尊的这个本尊也就是我们应该透过对话呀、沟通来解决、来处理问题。可是如果我们只修愤怒尊，或者是用外表很强势的这种态度来把对方压迫下去，这样子是没有太大的这个功能的。我们应该要有的是以菩提心为我们究竟的发心。那即使这些愤怒尊的外相呢，也是来自于菩提心的，否则是没有办法解脱，或者是这些众生，或者是摧毁这个邪魔者、危害者。我们要知道，事实上这些邪魔者、危害者这些疾病也不是真正的存在。可是如果我们自己去执着他们是实有的，那么就比较难得到这个修这个法的这个真正的这个功能。
Take a break for 30 minutes.
大家休息半个钟。
A quick announcement. This afternoon we are going to have an opportunity to offer mandala to Rinpoche. If you are interested in making mandala offering, please talk to Teresa in the back of the room. 今天下午在灌顶之前，我们会供一个曼达给上师。如果你们想参与这个供曼达的行动跟队伍，请跟在后面的Teresa 师姐来联系来接洽，谢谢。楼上也有2个洗手间你们可以用，但是Rinpoche在楼上做自灌，所以上楼的时候请不要出声音，谢谢。There are 2 additional bathrooms upstairs you could use, but Rinpoche is doing self-empowerment upstairs. So please keep silent, remain silent when you go upstairs. And then you could go up from the other staircase. 要从2楼上厕所，请走另外一个楼梯。Oh, sorry, I was just told that do not use the bathroom upstairs. 请不要用楼上的洗手间，抱歉。他们说我们上去的时候太吵了。请问刚刚是谁来问我问题的？谁举手？
动一动。
And also we have newly Buddha statue there in the altar, Vaitara and Akshobhya Buddha. You could also sponsor and take them home. 我们在坛城上已经装帐，而且昨天的佛切已经加持了，有白度母以及不动佛的佛像。你们要这个供养这个，然后带回家的，也可以到后面去询问。Okay, if you want to have a question, you could also ask either Carolyn or Teresa. They've been consecrated and blessed by Rinpoche yesterday.
这两个是哪一个是马头明王？哦，OK 啊，哦，OK， 那这个是OK， 这个是左边这个是马头明王 ，OK， 我写一下，不然忘了。
more in few minutes. If you have some personal thing, you need Rinpoche to bless, a Lama to bless you to put it on this table. 我们再过一阵子会开始继续上课。如果你们有些东西想要上师加持，可以放到前面的桌子上。And Rinpoche has mentioned all the Buddha statue, prayer wheel does not need to be blessed again. 所有的佛像啊、转经人不需要再加持。一般加持是身上的念珠啊等等这些小东西。Usually, what was explained in the retreat last week was small things like mala or like a thing, yeah, and another prayer wheel or the Buddha statue or sadhana or textbook. So no need for additional blessing. 法本那些也不需要再加持了啊。
他们的而且他很长，马上装，他长得很好看。
We have
di Thubten nong di Koran nong si kapsu 간주스 공부에서 듣고 나 간주스 공부에서 나 간주스 다음에 듣고 막 운동을 해라. 그러면 또 탑차상 난도 거나 대선 거는 보내라. 아니 양 주어지가 양 상상대 남만 빈도 지역 미발 그 그래서 참아티 로는 진짜고 말아. 민간 맞지가 또 세니.
So Vajrapani said we are now is going to give some instruction on the sadhana of these 3 deities. And so when we actually practice these deities, how are we supposed to meditate on them? How are we supposed to visualize and how are we supposed to recite the mantra? So we'll give a brief instruction on that. And will not go through the entire sadhana because there are a few some really complicated points in there, and also we don't have enough time. And also actually sometimes it's not so certain whether more words are actually also more beneficial, because in any case we cannot keep in mind all of these words that we hear, so I will just point out the essential points here.
这个阿舍离刚刚继续讲说，接下来他会给予这个仪轨这个法本的这个教授。那么当修这个愤怒三尊的时候，我们要如何的来做观想，如何的禅修，如何的持咒。当然，在这个法本上面还有一些地方也比较复杂的，那因为时间的关系，我们也没有办法把它讲完。另外一点也是，有的时候话多也不见得好，所以他是把一些重点的部分跟我们开始。
就当的民办大样的可以，他现在容易，那你得讲话咱们的确不有的，对没办法说看，我有嘛，老个容，说了没啥个没办。 这没办法，这马爹也把咱这边调的，这里马个路了呢，这但撞到了个是，没把咱这个过来打过去了，这里没把这个呀，工当上啊，马这觉得马着了这工当个人样马着这个啥，这边芒果地用的。
So there are a few different ways or kinds of mantra recitation. There is the mantra recitation according to the sutra system, where it is called the recitation of the dharani. And here, simply to recite the mantra, to say it out loud verbally, is sufficient. So there is no special visualization that one has to do along with the mantra recitation. So just the recitation is sufficient in the sutra tradition. In the mantra tradition, the secret mantra tradition, when we are reciting a mantra, there is a visualization that goes along with it. So it is not just a recitation, but the recitation is done together with a certain meditation, a visualization. And then there are different classes of Tantra, and accordingly there are different kinds of visualizations and ways of reciting the mantra.
首先有几个不同的持咒的方法，根据我们经教的系统来讲，或者是说如何持陀罗尼。那么这个传统呢，认为只要大声持咒就可以了，不必加上观想。但是从第二个从密咒乘的传统来讲，一般这个持咒是有配合观想的。那么除此之外，不同密序的部会有不同持咒配合持咒的不同观想。
nga ko lo ko yidam yang se to ka ko chama de ta jeram de ne ro go yo re de jeram de la yang ta da ti ta de ji re ma de wa ni ngarang pla ko me ta yang pla de do ko ma ta ya de ko ne ba re ma da wa ni do wa.
So according to the secret mantra tradition of practicing a Yidam deity, all of these practices follow the generation stage, the visualization of the deity. And there are basically two kinds of visualization. That is a self-visualization and a front visualization. So one can visualize oneself as a deity, or one visualizes the deity in front of one.
依照密授圣的传统的话，对修本尊法的时候，在跟升起次第的观想，一般分这两个部分，一个是智观，一个是现观。一个就是智观，就是观自己为本尊；现观是观面前的本尊在面前。
这样觉得人把那个当木啥就当就拉说话音了，不拉当那让这把不你把这个是说明的，打完之后就把那让给他们把那一个拉的搞清我的早清我那一声，有时候这样没有的，这里样那就拉米就拉说话了，不搞错，这里的把东当的那当他捏了，这些切了多呢，东当的那当他捏了盘多了的呢，这里那拉米的搞些那让个让引拉一把心，拉的让你切没把着我是，杨树林的，那拉米的搞些肯定是的，多呢这个他们这人把他这里拉。yang so je ni hina te tam te te gansa so so na te kanda wang bu sa ba na ba na so pa yu wa na te na te de sen ni ren ba yang na so pa yu wa ta ba te ji cha
So we practice a deity according to the different levels of tantric classes. So there's 4 tantric classes. And the first two, the lower two tantras, the action and performance, or kriya and charya tantras. Here, in the lower two tantras, one perceives difference between the deity and oneself, the practitioner. So there is one perceives a difference in terms of level, or one is supreme and one is ordinary. So basically you see yourself as an ordinary person and you consider the deity as supreme or very precious, very special. And so based on that perception, you practice the deity. And then once you get to the higher two tantras, the Yoga Tantra and the Anuttara Yoga Tantras, here you are coming increasingly closer to the ultimate level, the ultimate truth, as your wisdom becomes increasingly powerful. And so then, as a result of that, when you get to the 4th level, the highest Yoga Tantra or Anuttara Yoga Tantra, here you recognize that your own true nature is actually the deity. So there is no difference at all between yourself and the deity. And on the basis of that understanding, you practice the deity. And so in brief, we follow different levels of tantric classes. And it is thought that that is because practitioners possess different mental capacities, dispositions, and states of mind, and so forth. And due to this diversity, there are many different levels of practice.
那再来一个是依不同的密序层次来修持，也有可能有不同的观想。首先下两部的四部密序、行部密序呢的观想，有本尊跟自己的两个的这样子的对立。本尊是观圣，那自己是观凡，这样凡圣，这样子的不同。再接下来两部瑜伽部跟无上瑜伽部，我们的这个时候已经慢慢接近究竟地了，甚至在无上瑜伽部的修法的时候，我们知道自信就是本尊，二者是无二无别的，以这种理解来修持。那这种不同的密序呢，主要是跟依据众生不同的根器、不同的因缘，有不同层次的修法。
这当的我什么尼玛尼有咯，我什么就觉得看到这个呢，这人拉的当对人把人的，当对你有的把着，那记得你没记性，就我这他这人特别有点，他就是特别有点，但我就你们老了，当对也没搞，当对是那个把人多嘛搞。大体讲把这了，这里大人是那这看见了，你去那个吧。这里养生传的听，哈，咱们告诉，大体这里把这，没弄了就是你叫呢，就是人的把，车上引把这，大体我们就经过车上的这把，没弄了家叫呢，就是人的意念怎么样，没把拉说谁都特别是那个说，
So there are in general two systems of secret mantra, and that is the old and the new system. According to the new classes of Tantra, the new system of Tantras, there are different levels of generating or visualizing a self-visualization, oneself as the deity, and then the front visualization. So there are two separate kind of visualizations that you visualize in stages. And in most of those sadhanas, they are both contained. So they're in stages, you visualize the front and the self and then the front visualization. According to the old tantric system, the view is that the self and the front visualization are actually indivisible. So therefore there are no separate levels of visualizing self and front visualizations. There is actually no such a concept of a duality of self and front visualization. And then sometimes in that context, while we recite the mantra, first there is oneself arises as the deity, and that is like a reflection in a mirror of the front visualization. The mandala of deities appearing in front like a rainbow, then are reflected by yourself, being like the reflection in a mirror of this front visualization. So this is how they really are actually a union. One is just a reflection of the other. So that's the tradition according to the old tantric system.
大体而言呢，密咒圣有心序、旧序两种派别。心序来讲呢，根据不同的层次的升起次第呢，有自观本尊以及前观的本尊。那么大部分的法本仪轨都有这两者的观想。根据旧序的传统来讲呢，自观以及前观是无二无别的，所以没有说两个阶段的这个层次，两者根本上就没有差别。那么，所以这样的做法是在我们持咒的时候，我们先自升本尊，然后就好像镜中的形象呢在前面， 本尊在我们面前出现，好像彩虹一样，就是好像自己在这个镜子里面自己的影像这映出来，二者是合而为一的。
Teni terenki jutapte manjo Nima ko le ti ja ke ni ri de zemu de ngoro lo che wa ambo ti Nima zemu de ngoro lo che ri teni ke danjo yemi terang ko kapsu le che nyam su bon ya ri cha ta de la tambo de la jingo la su ba go ya de sa ri go no ko de pa 전에 그 랑이 당도 하우스 아니 다 봐, 이거 참 나 담보대도 산도 이거 뭐도 산도 나 소고도 산도 이거 아니 이 지속 때문에 다 야요 같아 대도 당면 좀 봐지 이 지속 때문에 나가 나가면 되는 거 그것은 손 잡지도 봐 내가서야
And so now coming to the sadhana here, the sadhana belongs to the the early spread of the tantras, and so therefore to the Nima or old system of tantras. And the author of the sadhana is Guru Rinpoche, and here one engages in practice, in the practice of the generation stage by visualizing the self and front visualization indivisibly. And so first it begins with a quite complex description of the mandala. So we will not discuss that now, but go straight to the visualization of the yidam, oneself as the yidam. So you all have received the image, this picture here. Here we visualize ourselves in the form of Vajrapani, and then at the crown of that, of yourself as Vajrapani, is a horse face that is Hayagriva, and above that, above his crown, is the Garuda hovering in space. So this is how you visualize those three deities together according to the picture that you have received.
所以这个接下来我们讲法本呢，是属于就绪的密序传统，也就是一般讲的这个明码。作者呢是莲花生大士，在升起次第这边的观想呢是观自己跟面前本尊是无二无别的。那一开始有对坛城比较复杂的这个坛城的观想，在这边我们就先略过。那自观本尊呢，我们先观自己化成金刚手菩萨。在金刚手菩萨之上有马头明王，在头冠之上，在上面呢有这个大鹏金翅鸟。那大家可以依照你们各自的这个本尊的法照这个来做观想依据。
산에 도지 산에 도지 보면 산에 도지 하자 되는 초 이렇게 조금 제자산이 봐. 야 이행이 봐. 그래요. 근데 산에 도지 때문에는 땀뱅 땅 송도 조교하는 일이 땀뱅 자산도 공부하면 와. 산에 도지 그 원하대 자습나 땅도 좀 요지 요봐. 거나 근데 땀뱅 속을 거야. 들으려 때 산에 도지 다 땀뱅
So you visualize yourself in the form of Vajrapani in an extremely wrathful form, and so he's also endowed with all the wrathful ornaments, the attire, and is standing upright. And actually here, Vajrapani and Hayagriva are actually in union, they're indivisible. And that means that you do not actually have to visualize the entire form of Hayagriva. So you don't visualize the entire deity Hayagriva. You visualize Vajrapani yourself, and at your crown there is a fierce horse head, and that represents Hayagriva. So the Vajrapani and Hayagriva are actually indivisible here. And above the crown of those deities in union hovers the Garuda.
首先，我们先观自己为极端愤怒的金刚手菩萨，身上充满的愤怒尊的种种的装饰庄严。那在这样子的观想呢，这个金刚手菩萨跟马头明王是合而为一的，所以在金刚手菩萨之上，我们不必观一个全身的马头明王，而是在他的头顶有一个愤怒、极端愤怒的这个马头，代表马头明王，二者是无别的。
算了多节的，也多节哪搞了啥？多节没办的，哪搞了啥的？啥用的只是用的，这里就是多，他这个这里多，给你过滤了。 如果了没干的话，那说啥的话，啥然后了来要的这个，但他三个多节了，如果了没忙过了嘛，对不对？
And then, so Vajrapani holds in his right hand Vajra blazing with fire aloft in space. And in his left hand, he's holding a bell. And his entire body is covered in many eyes, just like with Rahula.
.首先，金刚手菩萨呢，右手是持这个金刚杵，有一个赤焰的这个金刚杵，那左手是持铃，那么全身都充满了这个非常愤怒部位的这个罗浮罗的他这个眼睛。
你南跨个Garuda这个，喇叭个折中的是吧？卡个折中的，你的喇叭中的是吧？在某个中的有的，这折的看中有这么个讲一般的落当三大，落当大，要是三大就从不有了。这宁波人不是那的，你真的是折下双的吧？折下。
And Garuda, hovering in space, is holding a snake in his hands, as you can see, and also has that snake in his mouth in the center. And that snake, as I mentioned before, the snake represents the Nagas and the Earth Lords and various spirits and demons and so forth. So that is represented by the snake.
在上面的空中有大鹏金翅鸟，它的你们可以从本身的这个法照上看到，它的两手以及它的嘴巴呢，执着一个蛇，那这个蛇是代表龙族、地神的妖魔等等的。
你我让上多节的哈，这样的你刚是个去，拖到没把起步，我叫讲呢。 刚把杀了到那，你18岁他就要命杀用就管那就做他们，真的觉得，这做的Garuda的呀，这几步嘛也吧，这来只把个Garuda全，我是当这把，忙不，我老呢就是卡萨卡了吧，只把忙不错的吧，没大呢就是错的吧，真的这张我说的。
So you yourself visualize as Vajrapani. You should think of Vajrapani as extremely mighty, very powerful. And when he stamps his feet onto the ground, that has the power to cause the earth to rumble like an earthquake throughout the 3 realms of samsaric existence. And then the Garuda at the crown, it is actually not only this one Garuda, but from this Garuda, many countless Garuda emanations manifest. They all are radiant with light, and countless of these are emanated outward all over everywhere, just like sparks of fire emanating throughout the entire world.
那观自己为金刚手菩萨，具有极大的这个威力。当他在地上踩在地上的时候，可以使轮回的3界震动。那在这边大鹏金翅鸟不是只有一只，而是画出众多的大鹏金翅鸟，它们各自放光明，那么充满了这个全世界整个样的这个光芒火星的这种光亮。
드니 든저 곰 따테 네바 든저스네 그래서 유연자 빙공저 영어로 대 라틴 맞죠 대다다 라공스 저가 내들래 라고 요 말이 곰진저 유연 거 맞으면 그 곰제와 잠주 곰초초는 요 말고 대는 유연 뭐 담보배 현행 곰도만 이나는데 때문에 그냥 이제 공장도 있는데 걔네한테 일단 그 서담총라서 뭐 공대바 돼서 공대바는 와 공대 돼서 내가 찾아요. 그 세로 돼서 아마도 이거 찾아요. 때문에 내가 준이 들어가 공대 준이 내니 그 호텔가 나 공부는 나 공토야 준이 생 나랑 저는 라마이 말하고 내가 말아 코코 매 남도진 남조되는 내가 말할게 곰 제를 그 곰을 투고요 말해. 그냥 남유대에서 그 센터에서 그 가르치는 기내다 남동나서 곰리도 신도면 나들이 예담 제조 공부값사 빈도 체험 정리를 돼.
And so then when we then visualize in this way, we have to actually practice this visualization for a long time, so it becomes really stable. And so, generally speaking, when we practice a deity, it is actually not that easy to just visualize a deity, unless one has really habituated to it for a long time. So, if one has not habituated to any kind of meditation for some time, then it will be very difficult to just visualize the deity at once, very directly. So first, if the mind has some, like a basis of having practiced some sort of meditation, like shamatha, calm abiding, or any other meditation, then when you have this kind of stability of mind, have habituated to meditation somewhat, then it will be easier to also practice and visualize the deity. Because at this point, the mind has already gained some freedom, some control. If you have never really practiced any meditation and start out directly with the deity practice and try to visualize the deity, it will be very difficult because the mind really you have no control over your mind. So the mind won't stay at the visualization. It will follow various thoughts that arise in the mind. So even if you talk about meditating on a deity, you really actually can't do that practically. So if someone who has a basis of having done some meditation, like shamatha or vipassana and so forth, then when one begins the practice of the deity yoga of generation and completion, it will become easier. So having these meditation practices as a basis will be of great benefit when you practice a yidam deity.
如果我们平常有修止观，也就是摄摩他的这种禅修的时候，而且自己的禅修有一种到达一种比较稳定的程度，我们要来做观想就比较容易，因为我们比较容易控制我们的心念。可是如果我们没有修止的话，要观本尊，要做观想比较难，因为我们没有办法去控制我们的心。那么虽说我们本尊的这个禅修，来讲，如果没有这个止的这个基础的话，你讲是这样子讲，可是修行起来呢，是难修的。那如果说先修止观、止或观的禅修，而来修本尊的升起次第的本尊观想的话，对你会有相当大的利益跟帮助的。
남들 곰 자도니지나 되니 대체는 거나 라운드 요구 좀 진짜 가르쳐 요르스나 곰 자도니나 대 인진 히라요 말이다. 라 곰데 다 인진 요요 말이다. 라 곰데 때는 진바 요더나 저당 진바지 요고요 말이다. 남바라 사베나 되는데 다들 이제我当今嘛的这把这油上那个人当这油是吧？这没关系，三没关系了，人把那油嘛什么的，等着这人前一把这工作等着搞事是吧？这你大家这做人讲娘的老是吧？啥做个大话对啥个还过得完呢？这你人生的可能真都是要那个还过要嘛。这个平均这种差的。
And so, if you're someone who has practices meditation on an ongoing basis, is familiar with meditation practice, and then begins the practice of the deity, the generation stage, the reason why it is easier for such a person to practice the deity is because having meditation already as a basis, such a person will not have so much grasping at a duality. And that is essential when we practice a deity. When we practice a deity, we must not think that we are separate from the deity, that we must not think in a dualistic way. If we think in a dualistic way, then even if the visualization of the deity is clear, it is still not the actual authentic practice of the deity, because there is a grasping to the true substantial existence of that deity. So there is this concept of it exists, there is that deity. And actually, when we practice the deity in an authentic way, we have to be free of such dualistic grasping. Only then will the visualization be true, authentic. And then also when it comes to the meditation on the completion stage. So then when we come to that stage of completion, the view of Mahamudra and Dzogchen, one is actually already a person who has some understanding of that through one's own foundation. And therefore, when you come to the completion stage and so practices, there also will not be so much grasping at a duality, because you have already understood that the so perceived object actually does not really inherently exist. So in this way, practices build on each other, or one practice supports the next practice to come.
如果我们平常是经常禅修的话，再来修本尊的法的升起次第，一般来讲是比较容易的，因为我们有了禅修的基础，比较不会去执着二元对立的实有，那我们跟本尊是分离的，这样子的一个这个执着。 要不然的话比较难够有清楚的观想。如果说即使你能够观想出来，这也不算真正的这个修本尊法的这个适当的一个方式。那么如果说我们能够有这样子的不执着呢，修这个本尊法，那个才是纯正的这样子的修持。到了圆满次第的时候，也不会去执着实有的这个东西，这个也就是大手印或大圆满的这个境界。那有自己这样子的基础，到了这个大圆满的到了这个圆满次第的时候，也不会有这种二元的这个执着。这个是一个建立在另外一个的基础之上，或者是一个是另外一个的支持，修行上的支持。
这里样真正的通常呢，这里感样没把东半年呢，这里大体上就有可能也说呢，哪人讲呢，搞的谁个有的，然后3、4个人，这嘛的东半年人有嘛的，哪怕真的没把钱的有嘛的哇，哪得来到我这个地，大话的多呢，我呢这个稍微来嘛，让他用啊，用下的来到不了。这没种在这哪光呀？人把人的，把钱人把人的叫他提着哇，哪光把这我那是那么多的人，人那可平头有不那么多的吧？然后平头没是那么多，这把经济那么多，这里春节话当的错少不那么多，这把讲那么多，真的这个干了多。真的这个感觉人把人的这里，当年没把中华国家干了真的是那些，这人在那人把什么把这个啥，我也有的吧，可能东大慢慢干。
So it is also possible that you might think that then it is almost like no real point because all is empty, and then still we visualize this deity as though there is something that really exists. So why do we actually have to go through that? And so, of course, it is true that yes, things are empty, but just saying things are empty doesn't make everything disappear just like that, unless one has not reached that kind of level of realization. It is actually not that easy too. And that is why we have to train the mind, visualizing the deity in stages gradually. And so one could say that the visualization of the deity is a thought, a concept in the mind, but it is a beneficial concept, a beneficial thought in the mind. First, we actually have to eliminate those non-beneficial thoughts and concepts in the mind, the obscuring thoughts in the mind. They have to be transformed into concepts that actually accumulate merit and that purify obscurations. And in this way, if we practice gradually in stages, one will finally then realize the actual truth of non-duality. So as one progresses along the practice of the deity yoga, the generation stage and so on, one's understanding becomes increasingly deep until one reaches the ultimate truth.
那么或许你也会这样的想，就说为什么要这样子做？如果我们知道它本体是空的，那观想本尊存在，那要为什么会有这样子的情况呢？可是我们要了解，所谓的空性，并不是说空无一物，除非你真正的就近证悟了，但是那个程度是非常的难的。我们修行还是要逐次循序渐进，逐步的来。那么这个念头，这个概念，我们要做的是要先净化一些障碍我们的一些念想。 然后修对我们有增长的这个方面。那么之后我们到后面的阶段才知道二者其实是没有分别的。所以在本真法的升起之地的时候，一个人如果能够有这样子的见地，对这样子比较了解的时候，这样子是比较好的，到最后能够也是比较容易证到究竟的这个真谛。
Nima da kapsena, Vajrapani da de na jingome, ti tokala, ti woko goje. Woko go na ti sawon ye hong yo pa. Hong de la da Vajrapani Hayagriva Garuda hong de si ma de ko de wa. Tambo de le de tambo de le sen ne ba jing mai ko gong. Ye ne ba ge jing de ni ma de ko. Ti ngang ko to be jing de le wo zo to la so ba ba sen ro ko. Itu sama-sama Nima, ini langsung main rembat ini dari itu, aku lampu rembat ini, mana sih na? Nima sih na, tapi sen tampu masuk nero sih, yang macam mani pada cecil kalau sama tani Nima dah, tiga rendah tu dah Nima dulu cakap ni. Jadi dia lah tani itu pasal na, tani nak kerja langsung bang kerja ni tu mereka jadi jangan. Ini langsung main kawan lagi. Dolar ramai Indo kaum tiada orang berthaki.
And then when you're reciting the mantra, you're visualizing yourself as Vajrapani, and at your heart there is a light sphere, and within that is the seed syllable Hong, surrounded by the mantra, which is what? Which mantra is that?
Om Vajrapani Hayagriva Garuda hong.
Surrounded by this mantra, and so at first you have to visualize just this until that becomes stable, and then when that becomes stable, when you can sustain awareness of this, then you can begin with the circulating, the revolving of the mantra string. So then the mantra string begins to turn around the Hong syllable. And when that visualization becomes stable, then you visualize light rays radiating from the mantra garland. And so this process is sometimes also referred to as there's 4 levels: approach, close approach, and so on. But actually these names, these branches of approach, close approach, accomplishment, great accomplishment, actually refer to different levels of one's path. So first, when one begins, the mind is not yet able to abide still, so it needs to train in single-pointedness. And that is the first step of the approach, where you single-pointedly focus on the mantra string as you recite the mantra, until that becomes stable. And when that is stable, then you begin to turn the mantra string around the seed syllable, and that is called the close approach. And so as you progress along the different levels, different branches of practice, basically the level of your practice, the stability of your practice becomes increasingly stronger, becomes more and more stable.
<clears throat> 那么我们在持咒的时候观想这个自观本尊心中的放出光芒，光芒中间有个吽字，那周围有这个咒曼围绕。那刚刚上师已经很快的念了一次咒语了。那一开始如此的这个观想，那一直到稳定之后，觉知很清明的状态之中，这个周围有咒曼围绕，然后在稳定之后呢，再慢慢这个咒曼开始转起来了，然后在这样子的观想在稳定之后呢，然后再观想咒曼开始放光。那这个就是这个修行四支的这个4个层次。 也就是刚刚他讲的英文的 approach, close approach, accomplishment, great accomplishment， 修进修、成就大修等等的。那这是不同的修道的这个层次。一开始的时候，我们的心比较难以安住，那么所以我们要做的是把一心能够专注的持咒，一直到稳定之后，然后再来观想中指至周围的咒曼围绕，然后再转起来，再放光等等，再一步一步让我们的修持能够稳定，再进到下一个阶段。
我到告诉我让突然我认出来，等你赢了，身边个东西啊，那边有啊，这个等你赢了，就拼大个有，赢拿啥那说把四个有，东岸没把肉有那说，等你上个有啊，但这没把这不讲个有嘛，我那现在这赢边个老人讲个有的，赢边个老人要去当个有的，觉得样的。말한 속에 다체 얘나 핀플 내가지 무슨 말한 거 세고는 망고 세도 보여 말아 얘나 센터니 되나 이 세계 요사마선 다 그냥 또 영화 이소가 이들어와 이 그때 오늘 단에 인생 그시 동시 토바지 소화이나 될 루기 때문에 지라서 마토나 라운이 들도 다 들어오래 라운 들도 가시가 산데 오늘 단에 다 핀토니 되니 이제 온거리 상고도 돼야 레이트 또 소수문이 한국문이 자자자자 말로 빈생대 소로서는 되는 라문이 들게 받아 하는 거예요. 배나 말아래 발라스부터 얘나 콜라바 샘장의 상대로 무슨 말을 빈다는 손이 말이다. 만나나. 대도 라문이 들 받아 돼요.
So when you recite the mantra, you visualize that from your heart light rays radiate and they accomplish the benefit of sentient beings. So we always actually mention that. So actually what radiates out is your wish to benefit them. And then these light rays clear away illness and disease and all kinds of suffering and so on. So this is how we need to visualize. So then, this actually then does not become, that this is not just a visualization. We are not just training the mind in a visualization, but we are also training the mind in an altruistic intention. And even though you might not be able to do something directly to benefit others, you should always hold the intention, the aspiration or the wish to benefit others. That is what we need to train our minds in. Because of body, speech, and mind, the mind is most important. And if there is a true wish to benefit others in your mind, then even if you can't do much with your body, you are still purifying your own obscurations and negativities. So some people think that when we cultivate this altruistic mind, we also actually need to do something to help others, to benefit others. And of course, to some extent, that's of course true, we have to benefit others. But what's most important is that on your part, that you have a completely clear wish to benefit others. And when that remains stable in your mind, you are purifying your own obscurations and negativities. For example, masters like Milarepa of the past, these masters actually have attained enlightenment mainly by training their own minds, and they have actually not engaged in so much actual activity, but they purified their own mind in this way and attained enlightenment.
那么我们在持咒的时候，要观想心中放光，来利益一切众生。那么是放什么光呢？为什么放光呢？这个主要就是我们利众的这种心愿，让他们能够免于疾病、免于受苦等等的。 那这个并不只是说我们要在这个修法上的做这样子的一个观想，主要是在我们的这个训练我们的心。除了观想不过是一个层次，更重要第二个层次是利他心。那在这边呢，虽然有的时候我们能力有限，没有办法做到某种程度的利他，但是我们内心已经有利他之心了。我们在所谓的身口意里面，最重要的就是我们的心意。虽然目前我们身体还没有办法做到太多，自身没有办法做太多，我们也可以做到某些部分，然后内心更可以有这个利他之心。在这边我们是很清楚的知道自己的发心，净化自己内在的内心。在过去许多的大师，比如说像弥勒日巴祖师一样，他们也是主要着重在训练自己的心意识，并不见有那么多的这种仪式在上面。那么到后来就完全的净化他的那个心事。
你没把公布告诉就他们那哈点西部送进去了，咱那红别穷，不个只要把咱们送过多了，这古巴经济搞什么？这像了刚刚这呢，前年着这呢嘛是吧？这俺个身体上一个光呢，哈点西也是用到是个一个，用到这个。不只把那一个来老表嘛是吧？来做嘛不是一个人，因此就是来做是一个现在别还真是一把的讲过，真的不重要。
And so, regarding the visualization in the sadhana, it is actually taught that the visualization should be very small, very fine. So that's sometimes it is said that when one visualizes the home, for instance, you visualize it as fine as a strand of hair. And there is a reason for that. So it is not just to create a challenge for you, but there's actually a significance to that. And that is, we need to train the mind gradually. And we do that by refining the visualization, by making it smaller and smaller. Of course, it's not so easy to visualize something as fine as a strand of hair. And therefore, it is necessary to make a lot of effort. So in this way, we are training our mind. We are training the mind by visualizing in this fine and very subtle way.
接下来法本的这个观想，有的是讲到说，有的时候观想应该很小，很清楚。比如说他在这边讲到"哄"字呢，要小到细如法师那样子。那这样子的原因，并不是在故意找我们麻烦，而是主要在训练我们的心意识。那么这样子让我们努力的来练习来做，然后来这样子透过这样子来训练我们的心意识。
你像咱那的来教的大学呢，然后都搞个上的呢，在Garuda忙过，那这样你就盯着看他们的七八生的，真就是重的。等你这个来是有上神经个来是有上那什，真的是有人也松动。你这个是，你到底咱们那等着这人这就做才能参加。
And then sometimes when you come to the section of the application of activities in the sadhana, there you visualize first the seed syllable at your heart, and then you visualize that from that seed syllable, many Garudas emanate out, sort of like a nuclear bomb or so, completely pervading all of existence, the entire world. Oh, sorry. the dust particles pervading the entire world, like dust motes pervading the
In
entire
Tibetan,
world.
same word.
What? The same word in Tibetan, yeah. Dust motes and nuclear. So then you think that these Garudas, as many as dust motes in the universe, emanate out, and then they engage in activities to benefit sentient beings. So that's an introduction to that in brief, and so the time is already over, so we will stop the instructions here.
这个在这个事业上、修行事业上的应用，就是心中的种子质，放出许多的这个种子质，然后大鹏青翅鸟，好像数量多到宇宙中的微尘这样子的数量，这么多射出来。那么主要的目的是什么呢？就是利益众生。那因为时间已经到了，所以我们就先在这边暂停。
OK。
谢谢Lama，Thank you Lama。
So we'll break for lunch and then we'll resume at 2 o'clock. Please come back.